Nestled on the banks of the Potomac River, Washington, D.C. stands as a symbol of power, democracy, and history. But how did this city, this beating heart of the United States, come to be? What makes this city not just the capital, but the living memory of a nation's struggles, triumphs, and ideals? In this video, we're about to take you on a journey through the history of Washington, D.C., from its inception to the present day. A city born of necessity, sacrifice, and vision. A city that has witnessed pivotal moments in American history, from the birth of the nation to the civil rights movement and beyond. So sit back, relax, and let's step into the past to uncover the story of America's capital city. The story of Washington, D.C. begins long before the city itself was even imagined. In the late 1700s, the United States had just gained independence, but there was a major problem. Where would the capital of this new nation be? Philadelphia, New York, and other major cities were all considered, but none could satisfy the vision of America's founding fathers. The capital needed to be independent of any state to avoid giving one region undue influence over the new government. It needed to represent unity, an impartial place where the nation's government could operate without bias. That's when a bold solution emerged, a new city built from the ground up, designed to reflect the aspirations of the young republic. In 1791, President George Washington appointed Pierre-Charles L'Enfant, a French engineer, to lay out the new capital city. L'Enfant's vision was grand: wide boulevards, open spaces, and monumental buildings. He saw the city as a physical manifestation of the ideals of the republic. However, building a capital city in the wilderness wasn't easy. Much of the land was swampy and the infrastructure was non-existent. Construction took decades and the city's future remained uncertain. Adding to the difficulty was the political debate surrounding the city's location. Southern states wanted the capital to be closer to them, while the northern states wanted it situated nearer to their growing economic power. Eventually, a compromise was struck and the city was built on land ceded by both Maryland and Virginia. Washington, D.C. officially became the nation's capital in 1800, but the city's early years were far from glamorous. The streets were muddy, buildings were few, and the White House and U.S. Capitol were under construction. The city's small population was mostly workers and government employees. The city also faced its first major crisis in 1814 during the War of 1812. British troops set fire to the White House and other key buildings, leaving much of the city in ruins. But from these ashes, Washington would rise again. As tensions between the North and South grew, Washington, D.C. found itself in the middle of one of the most defining periods in American history, the Civil War. The city's proximity to the Confederate States made it a key target for Southern forces. President Abraham Lincoln led the Union through the war, and Washington, D.C. became a symbol of hope and resilience. Despite being surrounded by Confederate territory, the city remained firmly in Union hands, and it was here that Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation, forever changing the course of the nation. As the country entered the 20th century, Washington, D.C. underwent a dramatic transformation. The city's population exploded, its skyline grew, and it became a global symbol of American power. During the New Deal, President Franklin D. Roosevelt embarked on large-scale public works projects to reshape the city. Meanwhile, the Pentagon was built during World War II, cementing Washington, D.C. as the epicenter of American military power. The city also played a critical role in the civil rights movement. In 1963, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. delivered his iconic "I Have a Dream" speech on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial, calling for equality and justice for all Americans. Washington, D.C. was, and still is, a place where movements for social change gather strength. Today, Washington, D.C. is not just the center of American government, it's also a city that symbolizes the dreams and challenges of the United States. With its monumental landmarks, cultural institutions, and political power, it continues to be a focal point of American life. Though it's constantly evolving, the spirit of the city remains tied to the ideals upon which it was founded: democracy, equality, and justice for all. As we look to the future, Washington, D.C. will continue to evolve, facing new challenges and opportunities. From issues of governance to the growing influence of technology, the city remains a powerful symbol of the United States past, present, and future. Washington, D.C. stands as a testament to the vision and resilience of a nation. It's a city that not only holds the stories of America's past, but also shapes the story of its future.